By the way, 2 weeks ago, our man Rafael Esparza was right on the nose about this. That line is down to 7.5. So if you are a betting man or woman and you're wanting to take the Gamecocks, he said, wait, you'll get it at 7.5. It's there today, Mike. It has come down 2 points in the last 3 weeks or so. So money coming in on the Hokies.
Yeah. I don't read too much into that. We talked about this on the show yesterday. You had like two tidal waves of thought with this Carolina team cascading into one another.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's the start of a novel. And there it was on a brisk Saturday afternoon. Two tidal waves cascading into one another.
In Atlanta.
The pro-Carolina fan and the overrated Carolina contingent fighting it out in the middle of whatever. I think, as I pointed out, like you can't play the we're not getting any respect card if you're top 15 in both polls and your quarterback is on Heisman Trophy lists and all these things going. And the love for Shane Beamer has never been greater. And you're picked 5th in the preseason in the SEC out of a 16-team gauntlet that is that conference. By the same token, and we went over some of the people yesterday, not to be critical of them, don't shoot the messenger. It's just their opinion. There's a lot of people that think Carolina is not a top 25 team this year, that they lost too much on defense, that they don't have enough weapons on offense. And so my guess is, Jamie, the people that are betting on Tech to cover are going with that logic.
Yes.
The hardcore gamblers, which they can't stay away from this. It's too juicy to miss week 1 games and a standalone game, and they could sit at a sports bar and watch, flirt with the bartender, buy a round of drinks if they win, and sit there and tell war stories about how they never lose a bet. Those guys look at this. They have no skin in the game. They have no emotional interest. And quite frankly, they don't know a ton about either team, but they know enough to know that maybe Carolina coming off a 9-win season is due for a little bit of a step back. That's what the hardcore gamblers see. And so they are the ones probably bringing that line down. It's not like Hokie fans. It's not like they have what's the guy's name? Mattress Matt or whatever in Houston, who bets like millions of dollars on random game. I don't think Virginia Tech has their own version of that. Like, Hokie Bob driving around in this caddy and putting $1 million on the Hokies to cover every game. I don't think that's it. I think it's just some hardcore gamblers who probably look at it and say, yeah, Carolina could be really good, but they might just be a tick down from what they are a year ago. And that's a lot of points in week 1 of a neutral game. I bet you they looked at what Carolina did in week 1 last year against Old Dominion and said, well, maybe they just, like a lot of teams, there's no preseason in college football. They need a game to get their feet wet. New running back, not all new running backs, but you get the idea. There's no Rocket Sanders. Mm-hmm. You lose your top tight end, who was your top receiving target, and you lost a ton of perhaps the most talented defense in the history of the program. So I see the logic there. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I see the logic.
Yeah, no, I 100% do. Absolutely. And you mentioned last year, you could look at game 1 of every year under Shane Beamer. Now, none of those start a second-year starting quarterback who's a Heisman candidate in Lenore Sellers. But the point is the point. And when you pair that with the fact that there's a bunch of dudes that, again, the casual fan that you're talking about across the country has no idea who Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy is, or Nick Barrett, or all the guys that we cover on a daily basis that are replacing the guys that went to the NFL. They don't know who those dudes are. They don't know who is going to replace Josh. All they know is lost top running back, lost top receiver, lost interior lineman on both sides of the ball, lost for second-round draft pick Nick Emanwari. That's a lot of losses for a team like South Carolina. I know they return a couple of superstars, but that's what they see. They don't hear it or see it the way that we do. They can't text somebody in the program and say, well, how'd so-and-so do today? They don't know. So I get it. It all makes a lot of sense to me. Now, the AP yesterday did throw a new name into the mix nationally. No shocker that Dylan Stewart is a preseason first-team All-American by the Associated Press. But Jelon Kilgore is a second-team preseason All-American by the Associated Press as well. and probably rightfully so, if you ask me. So, this team does have superstars. Everybody knows about two of them, but they need two or three more to kind of emerge to be a sexy pick for a lot of these people across the country.
100%. And look, it was the Kentucky game that changed the minds of a lot of people last year, right?
Yeah.
That's when Dylan Stewart was shedding triple teams. Lenoris was doing Lenoris things. And say what you want about Kentucky, they turned out to be a major disappointment. But to go on the road and completely pants them and take away their spirit.
I love when you say that. That term never gets used around here until you're
that's going to be my baby for a while.
Yeah.
That opened up a lot of eyes. And then obviously, even in the loss to LSU, while the focus is the officiating, I go back to if Lenoris is healthy in the second half, you could have had 12 bad calls. You're still winning that game.
Yeah.
So people that watched that game, and several did based on the numbers, they were like, even in a loss, this team's different. So that's the kind of momentum that could be had. If Carolina goes out there and completely dominates this game, there will be a love fest. It changes that quickly. People jump on that bandwagon in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In the early season impression type deal, and we mentioned yesterday, it's, hey, look, if you're watching college football Sunday, you'll be watching this game. There's nothing else to watch live. The thing that happened in that Kentucky game last year, so you mentioned they pantsed them, but it was the numbers that associated with that. It was the whole picture. Number one, they only allowed 6 points. The defensive performance stood on its own. But remember, Mike, Kentucky was a team. You got to go back. You got to put yourself in that moment. I know you know all this stuff. You cover and follow Kentucky quite well as anybody I know. Going into that ball game, you had a lot of things going on in Lexington that seemed like they were really positive, and number one was Brock Vandegrift. Now, there was still some uncertainty about how would he work out, but overall, you're talking about a guy who had been in college football for 4 or 5 years at that point in time versus a dude who had just started his first career game in the Norris Sellers, right? And so the Wildcats were you remember that? They were 9-point favorites going into the game, and Carolina beat them by 25.
Yeah.
That got people's attention. Then obviously the LSU game, that kind of, even though they lost, it was still a big factor.